Welcome back to Real Estate Ramblings. I'm Amy Shrader with Remax Real Estate 10.
Michelle Hodges.
Ashley Hunt.
All right, ladies, do you feel like spring has sprung here in Hamlin County?
I did till today, and now
Well-
it's all chilly.
I wasn't really talking about the weather.
I know,
But yeah, today is definitely a wake-up call. I mean,
Yeah.
it's May, and I had to turn the heat back on because it was like 66 in my house.
It was
this
a little
morning.
nippy yesterday too.
Yeah,
I thought it felt great, but everybody else in my house was cold.
yeah.
So, what are you all seeing as far as the spring market goes?
I think it's still booming. I've picked up a few more sellers off the lake, and so I noticed that lake property seems to be doing pretty good.
Really? Okay.
Same. I've been pretty steady. Of course, there for a while I was absolutely covered up, and now that's kind of calmed down a little bit. But still, I spent the weekend showing around the lake, so
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's interesting. And I mean, y'all are looking more at Cherokee Lake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got some over in Norris right now too. So.
In Norris. Okay. Do you think there's as much inventory as we've normally seen on the lake for it to be this far in the year? You know what I'm saying?
No.
So I'm fixing to list one on Cherokee Lake, and I had just sold a piece of land off Cherokee Lake, but usually I feel like we have more of a market on Cherokee Lake.
I think the lots have really gone down.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like for 4 or 5 years, we've had tons of lake lots for sale. But now it's like when you go on there to look,
It's slim pickings.
it's like everything's been culled over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it really has. I mean, I know when I first started, I loved it because it was like a big playground to get out there and start looking at those lots, and you had a lot of inventory to find folks the right lot for them. And you're absolutely right. Those lots the number of lots that are on the market have really gone down.
Yeah, I've been trying to reach out to some folks that like I've had listed previously, and for whatever reason it didn't sell. Some of them like had pulled it off the market right in 2020. You know what I'm saying? So I've reached back out to them, and some of them are still trying to mull over whether or not they want to go back on. But I'm like, if you want to sell, this is the best time to do it.
Right.
Because
There's no inventory.
right. So where are you listing one on Cherokee Lake?
Off of Oak Grove.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so actually the people that I sold the lake land to, I just got a random call from land.com that had bought some land, somebody had deceased, and the neighbor decided he was going to jump on it because it was going to take his lake access directly in front of his house and the land behind his house. So I'm listing his dad's house. So it worked out pretty good. It was kind of circle there, but hopefully it sells. And
Yeah, it's always funny to me. The neighbors are always interested on a property, but they never want to give somebody what it's worth until they actually call a realtor and list it.
well,
And
these
then all
people
of a
have been
sudden,
trying to buy it for the last 40 years.
40?
40 years.
Wow.
And wasn't able to ever get the guy to budge. And then I guess as soon as he passed away, land.com was able to grab it. So for a little of nothing.
We had a
Really.
similar one over in Hartford, if you remember, a while back. Of course, that one was the one, I think it was before we, worked together, but we had a similar one where this lady and her, so a friend of hers had this land over there for years, and the neighbor had been trying to buy it up for years, but it had always been lowballing her, and she knew the only way that she could get a full price offer out of it was to call a realtor and get it on the market. And they still tried to, until we went out and started putting up our signs and all of those things. And of course, they were still trying to lowball. And, we just told them, look, she wants you to have the lot, but she also knows what she wants for it. So, I think it was smart of her to interject somebody between herself and them so that they couldn't continue to play on her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do that a lot. And then it's kind of like the sellers are like, well, if I'd known they wanted to buy it, in some situations, if I'd known they wanted to buy it, da-da-da-da-da, and I'm like, yeah, but they wouldn't give you what you're getting out of it now.
Right.
These buyers had actually been paying the taxes on it. And been mowing it and taking care of it, and it was an out-of-state guy, and they just did not know he had passed away, and Land.com just triggered right in on it fast.
Good deal. Good for you anyway,
Yeah, it's
right?
good for me.
So have y'all had any kind of activity going on Douglas Lake recently?
Not much. I think a lot of the flooding has kind of hurt that lake, in my opinion. I've not had any buyers want to even look in Douglas Lake because of just the trashiness of it right now and the muddy part of it.
What I'm hearing is that most of the properties available on Douglas right now are steep, and that they don't want to, they don't want to deal with that. So I do have some folks, here actually that have come into town. So I'm going to show them around Cherokee later on today. But then we do have a few on Douglas and on Norris that they want to see. But I think it has kind of pulled back some on
Steep
Douglas
as
as
in
well.
price or steep as in
No,
land?
as in land.
Okay.
Access to the
Yeah,
lake.
I think you just expect it to be steeper if it's on Douglas.
I mean, we
Than what
do,
you-
but a lot of
right,
people
right.
don't. And of course, you've got that other factor. People see, it's a house on 15 acres on Douglas Lake, and they're thinking, oh, it's a private compound.
5 of it's underwater.
No,
No,
probably 14
yeah, I
of it's
started to say
underwater.
14 of it's underwater.
Yeah, so that was the whole crazy thing about Douglas Lake. But, I was pulling numbers the other day because I do have a house on Douglas Lake that's listed, and my sellers are starting to get a little antsy, and I pulled the numbers, and there's only been like 2 sales on Douglas since the beginning of the year.
Wow.
And they were both like lower priced homes. I think one of them was like a single wide that had been added on to.
Mm-hmm.
And had a nice little lake set up there in a cove. But, a lot of the higher priced Douglas Lake homes I've saw have canceled their listing, pulled them off the market.
They're sitting. Yeah, they're sitting.
And so I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because I don't know what the ETA is to get the lake, cleaned up. I know it's a process.
It is back full though.
It is full. It's almost a full pool, I think. It's supposed to be next week according to the little
So
PDA
I was really
app.
shocked that would happen coming from, the Carolinas, but because it's dry up there. When you go up there and drive by the road or whatever that they've got shut down, they've been doing all the work on. They're not letting that river flow through at all.
Well, I know I had to go to Hartford a few weeks ago and meet with someone about selling some land, and I hadn't been over there since all the hurricane, mess went through. And I almost cried coming down off the exit at Hartford, because it's like time has stood still there.
Yeah.
I was in shock that there was still so much debris in the river there. Those businesses that are just right there off the interstate, like that BP gas station is still closed down.
Especially the whitewater rafting and all that through there is all of that's.
Yeah, that's
That was
kind
the main
of what
thing.
all the, Hartford was known for, is
Right.
those whitewater rafting. So it's definitely affected, I think, the economy there and those people's ability to kind of bounce back from everything.
Yeah.
And then I was amazed even driving 7 miles up the mountain in Hartford at the destruction and the devastation that had took place. You know what I'm saying? I guess I thought it was just like right there at the interstate where the river was.
That's what I had thought too until I went through there and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
I mean, like I said, this was 7 miles up the mountain, and the guy lives on right off of that road, but it's called Big Creek Road because Big Creek runs right up beside of it. And so he had built a concrete bridge from the road to his property to get over the creek, and had nice railings on it, and had put stone monuments at the front. And the concrete bridge is still there, but it tore those railings off, tore the stone monuments down. And I was just like, wow. Like, we just don't think about, how much damage a flood can do, I guess.
Right.
We see pictures of hurricanes at the Carolinas and don't think anything of it because we don't have to worry about that here.
Well, we don't ever see it, right? We're just,
Yeah. You hear about, and you hear about
Pictures don't do justice.
the piers coming down at the beach and, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, until you can actually see it firsthand, I don't think we truly understand the devastation water can cause, really.
Right.
So,
Rough.
all right. So we're thinking Douglas Lake is going to have some issues this year, probably.
I do. I think it really will, which I think is going to push more people towards Cherokee. When you was talking about steepness, that's kind of what I'm running into with Norris Lake. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Going to that water is real steep.
Yeah, that's the thing about Norris Lake. It's kind of one of those things when people call you about land on Norris, you automatically go, you know there's a possibility that you could disappoint them because a lot of that property is quite steep over there. And like you said, it's been called over, and because it's so narrow over there, there's just not as much, I think, to choose from. So it does tend to get, a little steep around Norris. Now the water's beautiful.
Yeah,
and amazing
the water's
views.
beautiful, but to me, Norris Lake, it's just not near as wide as Cherokee and Douglas. I mean, to me, I know that all the lakes come off of a river, but to me, Norris Lake is more like just a glorified river at that point, because even stuff that's on the main channel, you can always see the other side.
Right.
And, I always say you feel like you could spit and hit the other side. And on Cherokee, you're usually going to be able to see the other side of the lake, but like it's a distance. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I've sold on Norris Lake, but it's not my favorite lake, I can say.
Mine either.
I
agree with you.
I've stayed on every lake, and I love the look of the water in Norris Lake. But Cherokee is my go-to. So.
Well, I know for a while there, Norris Lake had the reputation of being like the party lake because of short-term rentals and stuff. It was all the people from Ohio or Kentucky would come in and stay on Norris Lake.
Boats, which they've outlawed those, right? I mean, those are supposed to stop. They have like
I don't think they're issuing new permits.
I thought the ones that was there had like 30 years and that was it.
I don't know. I know that was a big to-do a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure where it stands now. Because I don't even know how you sell a houseboat. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know I had somebody call me about, and I was like, I don't think I can sell a houseboat because there's no land to convey with.
It's a title.
Yeah, I mean it's like selling a manufactured home that's in a trailer park.
Right, there's no real property; it's personal property. Yeah, at that point, I would think.
But they get. I mean, I've seen some advertised for like $300,000.
Oh, they're way up there. Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you pay that if you know you're not going to be able to use it in a few years?
Yeah, I said the same thing, and I notice people are starting to sell them more now. So I'm kind of like, start to wrap them up.
Yeah, there's not that many on Cherokee. I think there's a couple that are down there at Black Oak, at that marina, but
no, you don't see a lot of them on Cherokee at all.
I don't even know of any at Black Oak.
There used to be a couple down there, and I don't know. I've not been down there.
I don't know any anymore at all that I can think of. I'm up that way all the time because we eat there all the time. We ride the boat and go there all the time, off the hook. But I can't think of any.
Well, it's been a while since I've been down there, so
it's nice.
Possible. It is. That's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, they've got the idea. It's a good restaurant there too. So.
Yeah, I'm glad Off the Hook took off and made it because I know they struggled there for a while. At that location, you know what I'm saying? It's like you had a restaurant that had been there forever that closed down, and then
now it's like an hour wait.
Oh yeah,
you sit on your boat, listen to music, and wait for your table. So yeah.
Yeah, and they do a lot of cool stuff during the summer. Karaoke.
Yeah, they have music every day now. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Even now?
Yeah, well, I think they've started it. They just started it back up just recently. So. But yeah, they have music and stuff, so we go there quite a bit. They also opened that other one up. It's not German Creek. I'm trying to think what it is. Is it Gilmore's, I think? I think that's the one that they just opened a new restaurant up. They had that damage from the storm, and then they opened a big restaurant. It's like a 2-story restaurant on the water.
Yeah, it may be Gilbert's, because I know they did get hit. Yeah. And then German Creek got hit.
German Creek has a small little restaurant.
They've got a small one. Mm-hmm. And then Fall Creek up here in Russellville, during the summer months, Angelo's runs a little restaurant there, like a little grill. So it's not going to be the same type of food you would get from the Little Dutch, but, you're going to have wings, burgers, things like that you expect at a lakefront restaurant. So.
And then your favorite... Cook's Boathouse.
Well, there's that, yeah.
Might as well throw that one out there.
Yeah, and you can pull your boat up down there and walk up, or you could call your order in and come pick it up. So, yeah, it's always weird if you're in there eating and then you see a big group come in from their boat and everybody's got swimsuits on and I've had Venus there before. She's like, why they in their bathing suit, Mama? Why they not got no clothes on? So I'm hoping to get her out on a boat this year. She's not been
Well,
able.
I've got a boat anytime you want to, so.
Yeah.
I've done put mine in the water. I was excited this past week.
I know. I envy you. Of course, right now it's so hard because it's like, is it going to rain? Is it not
Yeah.
going to rain? You can get out there and get caught in the storm.
We're having to do some dock repairs, so we had to yank our dock out and take it to get fixed. So that's been fun.
Yeah, apparently there was some pretty strong storms over the weekend because I saw a couple of people on Facebook over the weekend that had storm damage. Gonna have to get some dock repair. So, all right. Well, what are y'all seeing in the way of home inspections as far as are buyers being super picky? Or are there things that are keep coming up that are just killing the deals? Or what do you think?
I did. I mean, like that when, like in the very beginning of the year, man, I was losing them left and right to home inspections. I really was. But I think that's kind of settled down some now, and some of it I think is the buyer. You know, depending on how comfortable they are with being able to work on some of the things that need to be worked on. So I think it, like I said, it just depends on the buyer as to whether or not how they feel about it. And what they're capable of doing. So, but I have seen that kind of level back out just a little bit, and keeping those deals on the table after inspections. It had really kind of gotten to be there for a while. I was dreading every inspection.
Yes.
So, not that you don't anyways, inspections are the toughest part to get through on a deal, but still, it was just one right after another, it felt like. But now it seems to level out a little bit.
Okay.
I don't really notice the biggest issue with inspections as far as losing deals. I think we end up negotiating price-wise. I think buyers are more like, well, let's just knock off X amount of dollars versus the seller to fix it. And a lot of times the sellers are just like, let's just do it. It's too much of a headache to fix these little tedious little things, and it's usually nitpicky things, so they'd rather knock off $1,000 or $2,000 than to deal with it, especially if it's an older family.
And that's what we've seen too. I mean, which I would prefer to just have it worked out in the price anyway, because it's, like you said, you don't have to go back and do re-inspections or, do whatever once the work is done. And then that way the buyers can hire their own people and feel comfortable that it got done the way they want it done. So I think it's better to work it out through that, but sometimes it works out the other way. But
That's true.
I swear, I think 80 to 90% of the time they beat the seller up on a price negotiation over repairs, and then they never take that money and do anything with it. You know what I'm saying? And then they call you back in 2 years wanting to sell it, and it's the same house. Like they never did anything. Like this weekend, I had a house that we listed in West Hamlin County. And I mean, it's an older home. It's been well loved, well taken care of. A lot of updates done to it. And there were a couple of factors that, like, we knew these are going to have to be replaced soon. You know what I'm saying? Like major system things or whatever. And so we got an offer in over the weekend, and the buyer's agent said, hey, just to let you know, the buyer came up with this price based on, taking these things into consideration. And I'm like, isn't it funny how the buyer never thinks that we've took that into consideration already when we price the house and put it on the market? Like
It needs floor allowance or something like that. We do consider that. People don't really realize that.
Well, as you said, I mean, those things affect the value of the home to begin with. I mean, so you're kind of looking at that in that pricing and pricing it accordingly, knowing that those things have to be done. And I get that. I do. And I try to look at those things with my folks and, when I'm looking at the pricing of the home and going from there. But then, sometimes like you'll just come across other things during the home inspection that you weren't necessarily, because we don't have the same trained eyes an inspector does. So then you have to go back after some of those things. Like I recently put somebody in a house, and these folks really the sellers had spent quite a bit of money on like the remodel of the house, but then some of the bones of the house were neglected at that point. So, we got through and we understood that, yeah, all this is great, but my folks now know they've got some big ticket items that they're going to have to take care of pretty soon. So, yeah, I think sometimes you just gotta kind of take, as a seller, when you're doing that, kind of look at it all and put your money where it is most needed when you're redoing a house. I mean, and
Well, I think part of it boils down to checking the references and reviews of who you're hiring,
right,
because cheapest is not always best,
right.
you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And what's that they say? You can have it cheapest, fastest, or the best, but you can't have all three at the same
Right,
time.
right.
It's true.
So, all right. So, have y'all heard? I mean, you all know about the new NAR thing with the delayed listing marketing, right? That
Yes.
they've talked about. And of course, as a local MLS, we're still working out like the implementation of that. Doesn't have to be done until September. So, I know that we're working on rolling that out here, but it's not in place yet. So, then Zillow come out and said, well, if you're marketing it off the MLS, then we're not going to show it on our site. And so everybody freaked out and thought it was like a direct hit towards NAR's new policy. But it really wasn't aimed at NAR's policy, because now the CEO of Zillow has actually come out and said, no, that's not what we meant. If you do that delayed marketing from NAR on your MLS and then it goes live on the MLS, yes, we will publish that listing. But it's all about Compass. And so Compass has a listing process where for the first month that they've got a home listed, they don't put it on the MLS. They do private exclusive listing. And it's kind of like they're testing the waters, you know what I'm saying? So they might list it at a higher price maybe than what they would if they were trying to market to the public, just to see if they can fill out and find a buyer at that price. So that's actually who the Zillow policy was aimed towards, is Compass. So now they're telling, they didn't come right out and say, so Compass, we're never going to put your listings on Zillow now. But that's who it was aimed at.
Right.
So now Compass is going old school, and they're going to have their own little black book in their office of their private listings. So the only way you're going to see those listings is by going through a Compass agent. So it's kind of like, I know y'all are young, y'all don't remember, but way back in the day, that's how you found real estate. Like, you'd have to go to each individual real estate office and you would flip through their black book of listings before we had the internet and the ability to have the MLS online.
That seems like it would hurt sellers.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, I think,
You're not doing them justice.
right. We talk about doing the right thing for the clients over ourselves. And I mean, I don't see how in today's market with all the technology that's available, that's the right thing to do for your client. Now, those local listings, I like that idea of doing 24, 48 hours local. But to have something where you're only doing that in-house, seems to me like you're serving the real estate company more than you're serving the client.
Oh, I agree with that, because I think, you're going to get buyers because you're advertising, you have access to listings that you're not going to find on Zillow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of interesting because there's actually been a seller who came forward and said, my agent suggested that we do this private listing, da-da-da-da-da. And within 2 days, I got a full price offer. And I thought, well, then why don't I put it on the market and see if I can't get more?
Right.
And so that's what she told the agent she wanted to do. And she ended up getting $100,000 more for her house.
Right.
Than if she'd have just left it under that private listing agreement. So I don't think they explain it to agents, or I'm sorry, to the sellers the right way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
So
I think
eyes.
right, the more eyes you can get on a listing,
The better.
the better off you
Right.
are.
And I like the whole delayed. I like that because to me, I mean, and we work in a market where you know as well as I do the average home price is above what our local market can pay. Meaning when those homes hit you know, the MLS, our local market, as soon as they hit Zillow, they're actually competing all across the United States instead of just competing here for those homes. And a lot of them are getting taken out by cash offers and things where they just don't have a leg to stand on. So to me, the delayed listing is good for our community. I think it gives our local people who really are interested and who really are trying to get in those homes an opportunity to look at that. But it doesn't hold up the seller's opportunity to be able to get those things published quickly.
I think what's going to happen when we start doing that, though, if you have agents who actually do the delayed marketing, because it's the seller's choice.
I get
You
it.
know, it's a tool that you present to the seller and say, hey, do you want to do this? Do you not want to do this? But I think what you're going to start seeing again is homes that go on the market, and then they're going to tell you that, you know, they're going to take offers through a certain date because they're going to want to get it out on all those outlets before they make a decision on an offer.
Understood.
That doesn't mean you can't make an offer and put a deadline before that. I know Susan Barnett's taught about that. As a realtor, we're under an obligation to present all offers.
Right.
So, and the seller's under no obligation to
Take
wait until that
Right.
date to take an offer. So, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I think delayed marketing is great for buyers, like you said. I think it's good for buyer agents because it means a lot when you're able to send listings to a buyer that they're not able to find on Zillow, on
Right.
Realtor.com, those types of websites.
Right.
And that emphasizes the importance of you need to be signed up with the buyer's agent. You
Somebody
know, I can
who's
send
working
you
on your
everything.
behalf. Yes.
But I'm not sure how you sell that to a seller. You know what I'm saying?
I get that. I do.
I mean, how is that beneficial to the seller?
Right. And I think, like you said, it's a seller's choice. If you explain that to them and they're good with it, fine. If not, then 100% they have the right to do what they feel is best with their listing.
Agree.
You got any other thoughts to add to that? You're a little
She pretty
quiet
much
there.
whipped it up.
All right. So, what do you think is going to be a promising market for the rest of 2025? Do you see any type of, you know, is it going to be Cherokee Lake homes? Is it going to be local homes? Where do you think there's going to be a good niche in 2025?
I think more local homes myself, because I think the lake homes are just so priced so high, and the average person's just not getting approved. It's usually taking somebody out of town that has a higher paid job or cash buyer. I think the average person right now, to me, that I'm seeing is 300 and below. It's just, and it's hard to find the lake house at that.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I agree. And I think, again, we're starting to see locals peek back from behind the curtains now and want to be re-engaged in the process. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And the inventory, to me, is still quite low around the lakes. So, unless you can get people to come off those homes and sell them, you got no, you just, the inventory, I mean, it's clear, like I said, with the inventory right now. And that's what I was talking to a client this weekend about was, I see what you're saying about the price of this home. You and I talked about the price of the home. And I just told him, I'd love to see you in this home at this price point. But I don't know that that's going to happen with the current inventory.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I 100% understand what you're saying about all those things. But if the inventory stays low, then of course it keeps the pricing pushed up. So.
And I agree with that to a certain point. But when the house is sitting on the market for 90, 120,
Right.
150 days, you know,
100%.
There may be a reason it's sitting on the market that long.
Yeah.
exactly.
No, 100% agree. But only time convinces a seller to drop that price.
Oh, yeah.
And even then, sometimes they still don't
Right.
budge.
And I agree with that. And I think, you know, especially if they bought the house since 2020 and
Oh,
they've
yeah.
done some things to it.
Right.
I think they get this inflated price. And it's just like I told the seller, potential seller, last week, you know, he wanted to throw this price on a home and, you know, let's just see what happens. It's not worth my money or your time to do that because it's not going to happen. And if we do see an economic downturn, lake homes are the first that take that hit.
Right.
You know, our local market, as far as like homes here in Hamlin County, you've still got people relocating here, low property taxes, no state income tax, beautiful scenery to check out. You've still got people in the adjoining counties who are commuting here to work.
Mm-hmm.
So people in this area are going to continue to buy homes. A lake home is usually a luxury.
Right.
Especially if somebody's looking at it as a second home. And I think we've seen that market almost completely dry up as far as they're looking at it as a vacation home or a second
Right.
home.
People are sitting on their money now.
Well, the people that are coming
Yeah.
in are, we're retiring. This is where we want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, they're more ready to go. They're within that, 2-year time frame, something like that, not that 5 to
10
Yeah.
years.
Do you think the Battle of Bean Station walkway that they're fixing to put up is going to hurt the market in that area?
The
On the
Battle
lake?
of what?
The Battle of Bean Station, the new walkway that they're.
I didn't know they were doing that.
So yeah,
Tell us a little bit about it.
So I had a property listed last year. It was priced in the 300,000, and it was a lakefront property. But what was hurting it was all the locals knew about the Battle of Bean Station walkway that they were clearing the side of it. So they're making the island where the Battle of Bean Station happened at. They're making a walkway. They bought this land here and they made this walkway. They got the grant. So it's going to stop some of the access to some of those properties. Not a lot of them, but it may bring in, a lot more out-of-state people to see. So I'm kind of curious if it will hurt down Rutledge Pike, if it will hurt any of the sales of those homes.
I don't know. That'd be interesting. I know a lot of Civil War people are very interested in, that history, and they just cannot believe that we flooded, a battleground
Yeah.
or whatever. I've worked with a couple of people who got into the Civil War reenactments, and there's a lot of money that those types of, venues bring to the area. I think the fact that Bean Station is adding sewer is going to help them. But if it's only in the city limits of Bean Station, I don't think any of the city limits of Bean Station falls on the lake, does it? Very little.
Just on the pond side.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know that battle's been going on since
Well, they got it approved.
me getting into real estate was trying to get sewer for all of Granger County.
So I spoke to them on that, and they got it approved. They just don't know when it's going to happen still.
Right.
They don't know when they'll be able to install that. So it's been interesting.
Well, it's a big financial undertaking
Yeah.
for any town when you connect to sewer. And you've got to make sure that, typically what happens is people are going to have to pay a connect fee.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Granger County, they may not have that kind of money to pay to connect. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I've long said, if they could get sewer and water all the way up and down Lake Shore,
That's going to be a while.
oh yeah, it'll probably never happen. But they have strategic reasoning as to why they don't want it to happen. They don't
yeah.
want that to turn into another Pigeon Forge.
Mm-hmm.
And so the biggest thing that stops the development of other condos, restaurants, things like that along through there is the fact that you're going to have a septic. So like the German Creek condos out there, they have their own private sewer.
Right.
which is part of your monthly HOA fee there, because there just wasn't enough land, for everybody to have a septic. So, I don't know. Sometimes I get where they're coming from as far as trying to delay that
Especially
development.
locals.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think so too. I've had folks for years when we're talking about Bean Station. I'm like, Bean Station, that the Granger County area. I think they like that they're not
Super commercialized.
Right. I think so. I think what you're seeing in Bean Station, I think they work to keep it that way.
Oh yeah. The local
So,
grocery stores.
and I get it. I do get it. There's a difference in the feel on those lakes. And a lot of that has to do with the fact you talk about lake life and you're talking about Cherokee Lake, and it became more obvious to me last year because I had a lot of friends and we were spending time on the lake and, doing what have you. And these folks actually go, out on their boats and they visit each other at their homes on their boats. I mean, on Cherokee Lake. They know each other. They know where somebody's house is. They're going, hey, I'm going to ride down to see so-and-so. So the feel on Cherokee Lake is just more, it's more residential. It's people who live there, people who know each other. You just have more of that, I think, on Cherokee Lake.
A little less Airbnb.
Right. The actual lake life that people live. Yeah.
Right. I agree with you. And I mean, having been born and raised here,
Right.
I can remember going to Dollywood when it was Silver Dollar City. I can remember when Highway 66 was a 2-lane road.
Right.
You didn't have the Wings and the Eagles and all the restaurants and
Right.
all the things. You had Ogles Water Park, you had Magic Kingdom, you had Porpoise Island.
Yes.
Now I'm dating myself.
Yes.
Porpoise
Oh,
Island.
no, been there, girl. Been there.
And, you had Silver Dollar City. And then you'd go up to Gatlinburg, or you'd go, to the
Right.
Chimneys, or you'd go to Cape Cove.
Right.
And now when you go up there, you're like, oh my God, I have to sit in traffic.
Yes.
I have to
Yeah,
fight
especially
different
traffic.
things.
Us locals. Just,
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, I would want to see that in Granger County.
No, nor would I.
Or around the lake in general.
No, nor would I. I think it's very intentional on Granger County's part to keep it the way it is. Same thing with Hawkins County. I just, and I agree with it. I like it. I like that our lake here is a little more residential. And again, the folks know each other and they, drive by each other's houses on the lake, on the boats and wave and, folks know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
It's very cool.
My eyesight's not that good. I'd be like, who's that?
I know.
Who that?
I know.
Your sign is up, so you're good.
All right, ladies. Well, I think that's going to wrap up today. Anything else y'all want to talk about or share?
I don't think so.
All right. You can tell it's Monday morning. We're all raring to go. We got stuff to do. So,
Yeah.
all right. Be sure to join us. We will not be here in 2 weeks because I will be on vacation, but we will be back with you. That
2
would be
weeks
a month. So, see you then.
Bye.
Bye.